Welcome to Start Before You're Ready, the podcast that proves that you don't need to wait for the perfect moment to begin your journey towards better health and happiness. I'm your host, Kelly Young. Remember, the first step is often the hardest, but it's always worth taking. Hey guys, it's Kelly, and I am here today with one of our amazing members. He's actually another package deal. He is the husband of Debbie Wolin. We have Harry Wolin here today, and I am so excited to talk to him about his journey with KBC, and I want you guys to hear from Harry some of the lessons that he's learned over time. It's been really fun for me to see his evolution in fitness over the last 13 plus years. I've always loved him as a student because he is very team-minded. He, shares that he really loved being on a team, and then that was something that he always valued. So finding KBC for him kind of felt like that again. He also shares that he's not as social as we might think him to be, which actually makes sense. I'm going to talk about that just for a minute. And that KBC has really helped him kind of check that box with social, not only his fitness, but his social. And Harry just shared with me right before we were starting, he's like, I don't like to talk about myself, and I don't really like to talk. I'm like, that's like Andrew. They're so similar. If you like go through all their characteristics, they're very, very similar. Maybe Debbie and I are kind of similar. His wife, Debbie, is pretty intense. so maybe we're pretty similar. But Harry, actually has a lot to share, but I'm just going to kind of say something that I have observed over time. He is a very, very smart man. He has been someone that I've kind of gone to a few times if I've been like in situations with my business where I'm like, oh, Harry, I just remember this one time in particular where I was like, okay, he should be like my personal coach. And I think he is a personal coach to a lot of people because he's been in the school system for how long, Harry?
Well, I guess I've been in education for about 30 years.
Yes. Yeah. And an administrator for how long?
Oh, gosh, that's probably been about 19 years now.
Yeah. So he's the best. Everyone will tell you he's the best. But okay. So before I tell you everything I want to tell you about Harry, I'm going to let him introduce himself.
Okay. Well, thanks, Kelly, for having me on. As you mentioned, this is not always my comfort level of talking about me, but I'll certainly try. Just my quick background, I grew up in New Jersey, came out to the University of Maryland, where I was fortunate enough to cross paths with Debbie, and I stayed out in Northern Virginia ever since. And so we have three wonderful kids. Really, by now they're young adults. It's hard to keep calling them kids, but they are young. They are young adults. I always grew up. I just kind of will focus on the exercise fitness part of my life here. I always grew up playing like team sports. Like I always played something, whether it was like organized sports or just at that time, in your neighborhood where all the neighbors got together and you're playing something. Like it was always a wiffle ball tournament we're playing, or basketball or football or soccer. It was just, we're playing something all year round, whether it was organized or just out for fun. And so that kind of continued with me all through high school. And then so when I got to college, I sort of continued on with playing like intramurals or, just playing pickup basketball. And then, after college, continuing on a little bit with like adult leagues or playing softball league or just pickup, just playing. So I was always doing something. And I think what I realized is that like, I never really like exercised on my own. I was just always playing something. And so then when I got to life happens at certain parts of your life, whether it's your job or your kids, or I started to kind of get some back issues and some back problems, sort of that, I would say that sports part of me, like it stopped.
Yeah.
And so that's where sort of some struggles came in, was because it's like, I never really exercised, on my own. And so that's where it was like trying to figure out like, what do I do?
Yeah.
And there's those years where you just weren't doing as much as you had wanted to do. So that was kind of So that was kind of me like growing up.
Yeah. So that's when we met. So I always say it usually takes the men a good year after the wife joins, because the wife will join and be like, I think you'd like it. You should try it. And they're like, no, they think it's for chicks. They think whatever, whatever. So that was the case with you and Debbie, right? So Debbie had been a member for probably a solid year. And was she bugging you, or was she just
Yeah, I mean, you know, I don't want to say on a podcast here that she bugs me, you know, but no, she probably joined, you know, a little bit over a year before I started. And yeah, she would always tell me about it. It's like, hey, you got to try this. You got to try this. And I was, you know, whatever, maybe, I don't know. And I don't know if you remember at this time too, is that I was your son Brandon's
Yep.
assistant basketball coach. It was during that time period, because I remember Debbie saying, hey, that's the person who's doing the classes. And I was like, oh, okay. So I'm pretty sure, although I can't remember vividly, I'm pretty sure you probably did a hard sell on me at some
Oh,
point.
if I got to lead like Harry Wolin, I was definitely going to be dropping some suggestions to come try it out for sure. I do remember that, Harry.
Yeah, so all of that was going on during that time, and so then I finally went. I went, to the Saturday boot camps, 2013 at some point, and then from there it was like just instant in terms of, everyone obviously goes for different reasons, and what
Yep.
helps them, and it was for me where, especially those Saturday boot camps, there was always something going on, whether you were matched up with teams, you're like, maybe there's a competition, or obviously there's the red challenge, the time miles. Like there was always something going on
Yeah.
that certainly hooked me, because then it kind of brought back a little bit of those like competitive juices, and whether it was with a team and I wanted to win, or whether it was just for me to improve on my own times, like it just kind of brought that back out again. So that's where sort of like took a little bit over the year to convince me. But then once there, I was like instantly hooked with like how it helped me in that competitive feeling and bringing that back out again.
Yeah, yeah. So and you were very consistent with Saturday boot camp, and I think I could be wrong on this, but I think when you first started, you just did that one time a week class. And then and as because we didn't have as many
Mm-hmm.
options, so as we've evolved, you've kind of picked up more. So one of the things about Harry right now, or more recently, is he did have to modify because of his back, and I loved just one of the things that I really really appreciated was the guys would say to me, like, I'm gonna Harry Wolin, like I'm gonna have to like be like Harry Wolin today. But it gave them, because there was someone like a cool dude that they respected that was like, it just couldn't do certain movement patterns because it bothered your back. I mean, it's nothing to do with age, nothing to do with athleticism, nothing to do with anything. It's just this aggravates my back. I can't do this. I know what I can do. I know what I can't do. And he would still show up to class and do whatever he could do. And if it was a drill that was like, oh, I can totally do this, he'd be right in. But if it was something that he's like, I'm going to modify this, I'm going to use this piece of equipment instead, he would do that. And I just value that so much in our environment, because it gives other people the invitation to do that. And again, we've had people literally say to us, like, we're gonna, I'm gonna have to modify, and that's so helpful, because it's hard, especially when you're competitive and you're, all those things. I totally get it. I totally get it. So I really really appreciate that about you, Harry. You've also been involved. Harry is very funny. He's a very funny guy, and he's also been involved in our winter challenges. And I don't know, Harry. Do you want to tell like one of your favorite winter challenge stories?
Oh, gosh. There's so, when it's, I mean, I love that again, kind of with that competitive nature, you love like doing the winter contests and the winter challenges. And yeah, I mean, every year it's always something new, something unique and something different. But yeah, I mean, there's just been so many over the years that it's so hard to necessarily pick one, but yet,
How about the one you won? How about
yeah,
that one?
exactly.
How about
I
the
know.
one you won,
Yeah.
Harry? 'Cause I got a lot of pictures from that night.
I'll take a sip of my water right
You
here. My
always got his champion water.
yeah, yeah. Finally, after all these years, I get on a winning team. I always thought I was the one that was bringing the team down, but finally. No, but
No, you know what it is? I think you've always been on kind of the fun, laid back
yeah,
team.
yeah,
And then you got on the really competitive team because every team is different. Some are super intense and but some are like, oh, we're just doing it. So, we get to hold each other accountable and
yeah.
don't stress yourself out. Some people ask the other teammates to be super intense and some people are like, do your best. Your best is always good enough.
Yeah, I probably tend to be more of the comic relief and the less intense of my team, but I still would though, again, because of my nature, like, hey, look, I'm going to do my workouts, I'm going to eat well, so you still want to help the team and do all you can, but yeah, I know it's such a great, just such a great fun time, doing that, and again, it brings back that feeling of being part of something and working toward your goals.
Did you do individual or team this year?
I did team.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
this year was a
Yeah,
little.
you like the team.
Yeah, this year was a little bit rougher in a sense because I did get like a back, flare up, right before the contest. So I was a little bit limited in what I can do this year, and but by golly, like during the winter contest, it's always my birthday, and so this year I thought the birthday push-ups were going to be a struggle. It was harder. I admit it was harder. I do admit it. It was harder this year,
We're
but
gonna
I
we're gonna
did.
talk about the birthday push-ups
Yeah,
later. That's
but I did
something
get I did get through them. At least I got through them. Then a week later happened, but then yeah. So no, like it's just always fun to be part of being part of that stuff, and just to get in general, with also that competitive nature, and you talked about modifying. That is something that's important to me, but I'll be honest, it was a little bit of a struggle in the beginning. It was a little bit of struggle for me in the beginning because I was feeling so competitive that then when something happened, that I felt like, oh wait, I can't do this anymore. I can't be part of this, or I'm going to let my team down. Whatever it is, it was hard. But then it took a while, not a while. It just took a little bit of time for me to kind of transition my thought that it didn't always have to be I had to win at everything, or just the fact that I was there and doing something and getting the encouragement from not only you and the coaches and my teammates or whoever I was with. Just getting that, I just realized, you know what, maybe I knew a year before I would have ran faster and probably could have beat that person or something, but now it was, you know what, I'm doing something, and that's really for the win, and that's
Yeah,
where I sort of
huge
had to
win.
change my mind, and that's where it was like, you know what, I'm just going to modify, and that's good, and you do what you can do, you just kind of show up and get there.
Yeah, that's a really good point about the mindset. I think that's really really important. And you said something. So when I asked you what was the most valuable lesson you've learned from since you started, I really like what you said. I actually I was looking for a picture of you to put this quote over it because I think it's brilliant. It's okay to not only start before you're ready, but it's equally important to restart if you drift away. I love that, Harry. What did you mean by that?
Yeah, so that's kind of a little bit what I was alluding to with some things earlier. I'm probably, I'm with Debbie. And so Debbie's the consistent person up every morning, alarms on, and she's going. With me, and I'm sure with a lot of people out there, just the typical person that, things happen, whether it's your job, whether it's your injury, something comes up, and you sort of, you drift away for a little bit. It's possible that when you do something like that you kind of don't want to come back
Right.
because then you feel embarrassed, maybe because now you put on some more weight or just whatever it is, you feel like, maybe you're not as comfortable anymore to come back. And I think what was my valuable lesson that I learned was that part about it's okay to restart when you drift away, because you always felt welcomed back, with the coaches and the people around you. No questions asked, you know, no judgment. It's hey, you're back. Now we know where you're at. So let's get going, and let's move. And again, it took me a little bit to get over that. And then once I did, when those natural driftaways happened to me, I just always knew it was easy to come back.
Yeah. And we've also seen, we can talk about this a little bit, we've also seen patterns, right? Like, and I'm sure a lot has to do with your job. Uh, back when the kids were younger, their sports schedule, your kids were all incredibly active in sports. So we see those patterns too, where it's like, and you've kind of shared a little bit about that. So one of the things that Harry has done, I think for at least 3 years, Harry, the DW, have you done that is this your third year?
Yeah, it kind of started. Yes, it's been about the third year now.
Okay. 1 year you started kind of in the middle of the year, but that's okay. That's okay. But that's one of the things that Harry does that I really appreciate is he kind of shares his takeaways from how he's doing with his GW report. We have a couple of guys in the group that are really good about sharing. And I just think it's super helpful. It's super helpful for me as a coach because you're really honest. You're like, okay, I see what happens when I do this. These things happen. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, Harry?
Yeah, as you're saying, like I kind of know a little bit of my pattern and the routine of where I get stuck a little bit, and it actually is like starting right about now
Yep.
until about September. There's just some things with work that's just sort of my busy time, and I just get so locked in. I work at a school, and it seems like, oh, no students there, but it's actually my busy time. But because no one's really there, I just get super locked in. I need to get my work done because it's my busy time. And so then you just start to, I can't get to classes, or you're just tired or whatever. So I know this is my harder point. And so, hopefully like with the DW, it's meant to be like, okay, I got to still stay accountable, get on that scale, good or bad, you got to check in. And so, and now I'm making, and sometimes though, I would even struggle with that. Like I wouldn't want to get on in a certain month because I knew it was bad. And so,
Yep.
this
I know
year,
I've sent you some text messages. We're
yeah,
missing some data.
yeah, yeah. And so this year I put something out in our group because it was like, you know what, I'm going to actually start posting to even try to keep me more accountable, to say, no matter what, I'm going to put something out
I love that, Harry.
every month, just to know that I got to keep at it and not struggle as much.
Yeah, I really, really love that. And I like to be very honest. If I said I was going to do the InBody every month at the beginning of the month for the entire year, and I made a promise to myself and I said I was going to do it, I would have stopped doing it by now.
Yeah.
Because I didn't feel like doing it a bunch of months. I was like, I hate not eating before class. There's like my morning routine is messed up. I wouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
And because just like you said, I mean, I've got this group of 60 people that are doing it and they have the same problems that I have. At least I can get into the studio anytime I want. They have the same issues I have and they're doing it and I'm not going to let them down. They're doing it. I'm doing it. So just what you said, I think is incredibly valuable. That's going to be our ding, ding, ding. So we all know ourselves, right? We all know what tends to trip us up or where we struggle and being self-aware is such a superpower because you said, hey guys, I often screw up this time of year. This year, I'm not going to put an extra layer of accountability. I'm going to report back to you. I mean, there's just such value in that and the power of a group, right? And and the beautiful thing about that is you just help somebody else by doing that because they're thinking to themselves when they don't want to get on, do it. Perry Wolin's, it really is a powerful, powerful thing if you surround yourself with the right people. So I think I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask you about a challenging moment in your journey and how you got through that.
The story, sort of my KBC, fitness journey is always a little bit about, like you said, when you sort of drift away, you come back, and some of it is due to injuries. I get a back spasm or whatever. You come back. I'm sort of undergoing a different challenge right now. That's a little bit more dramatic in my early stages. It was probably late February when I did have a heart attack.
His birthday is in February, by the way. So when we were talking about these birthday push-ups, I just want to put this all together for you. He did his birthday push-ups with Andrew together at the parking lot. It was a cold morning. His kids were there. Two of his kids were there.
I think so. Yeah.
Shayna was there and Jordan was
I
there.
think so. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. And they were so cute cheering for you. Jordan was filming. He was taking a video. I got a great picture. I'll share it of all
Yeah.
four of you. So that was in February. And keep going, Mary.
Yeah,
Sorry.
so I did the birthday push-ups. Then was the great winter contest party on a Saturday night, the following Saturday night, and then yeah, a week later, and then that Monday after the party, I did have a heart attack. Luckily, I was in the emergency room at the time, so it was very lucky that I was there. And, a week later, after the heart attack, a week later, or based on what they discovered that night, a week later, I was in surgery for a triple bypass open heart surgery. So that was February 21st. I was trying to do the math about how long it's been. I think it's still less than 20 weeks that it occurred. So that's like sort of the challenging journey that I'm on right now. And I think the question, if I'm remembering correctly, the question was more about, in a sense, how has KBC helped with some of these challenges that you have? And so I'll probably break that up into two ways, if that's okay. One, I'll talk more about the KBC community. So just in terms of the KBC community, since that occurred and since the surgery, the outpouring of support and checking in and meals. I mean, you just I can't really put into words, to be quite honest with you, what that not only meant to me, but meant to like Debbie and my family. Just to know that community is out there supporting you and what people are offering to help or give rides. But, obviously it was a very scary time in our lives, and we had to, adjust to a very traumatic and dramatic
Yeah.
change in our life right there. And so just the outpouring of that support from the community itself was just tremendous and incredible. And anyone that's out there, if they're listening in that community, again, a heartfelt, no pun intended, but a heartfelt thank you of just what it meant to all of us.
There was a lot of value in what you experienced for our community, because we hated, obviously, that you had such a traumatic experience. And we're so incredibly grateful that you're here with us and
Yeah.
back to KBC. I mean, that's, this story would be a lot different if you weren't. But talk a little bit about, I mean, so you told your doctor, hey,
Yeah.
you mentioned your birthday push-ups. Like,
Yeah.
I did 50
Yeah.
some birthday
So,
push-ups in a parking lot in the
yeah.
cold.
Yeah,
And
I guess
when,
that's the one funny. That's the one little bit of funny part story about it, and that's where I was going to say I'll transition to more like I just wanted to first thank the community, but now I'll kind of talk a little bit about what I think the exercising and the workouts had done for me. So the one funny thing of what you might be talking about was after I had the heart attack and I had to have a procedure that revealed that I needed to have a bypass surgery. The nurse who was in that procedure, came in and checked on me the next morning. And then she remembered, and I remember her asking me all these questions. She was like, were you getting like tired walking up steps? Were you like breathless, like going up steps, or could you not like do anything? And I told her, I was like, well, I went to workout classes Saturday, Sunday. I went to another class in the middle of the week, and I did my 54 birthday push-ups a week ago. And her response was, her response was, from what I saw on the inside of you last night, I cannot believe that you did anything like anything like that you're describing, just because of the amount of like blockage that I had. So I think just the fact that I was maintaining some level of fitness and exercise helped. I wish I can quantify this, and I can't, but I just know that the like sort of that strength that I had and the fitness that I had, at least prior to it, not only helped me get through it, but also helped me get through like the surgery. And in a way where I feel like I got through it a little bit better than others. I'm not, I'm not here to say it was easy, and I'm not here to say it's like, oh, it was no big deal. I'm just saying, I know, again, I can't quantify it, but I know that it helped. Where I definitely can see where it helped with, and I can quantify this a little bit, has been the after surgery. With the after the surgery, they want to get you up right away. They want to get you up and get you to start to walk. Now, again, mind you, when we say this, it's like you're not walking fast. You're walking very slow, and you get tired very quick. But the reason I'm bringing this up is because I do remember, the first one or two times they got me up, they had to help me up. They had to help me up. But it was really after that first one or two times that when I got, to the edge of the chair, where I was now going to get up, I just sort of realized I was in a squat. I was in like a squat position. And I'm sorry, I'll just back up with that story just to say is that the big thing is with that type of surgery that you have, you can't use your upper body for about like 8 to 9 weeks. You can't use your arms. You can't push off. You can't lift or grab or pull things. So it's really that they're saying, hey, you got to do all this with your legs. And so when I got in that position, I was really like, wait a minute, this is like a squat. So I just kind of thinking about, the class, I was like, okay, let me just kind of plant my feet into the ground. And I got up. And so I realized, wait a minute, I can do this. I could do, and it kind of goes back to bring up, like when I hear you in class sometimes, when you're talking about some of these exercises are about functionality in your life. Well, here I saw it in real time. It was like, wait a minute, this is helping me stand up out of a chair right now by the fact that I did a squat. And so, from there, I was able to now get out of the chair by myself. You do a little walking lap around the hospital wing, and the first one they do it with like a walker, so you can stay steady and not fall. I maybe did one or two laps, maybe it was maybe once or twice, and then I remember a physical therapist came in the next day to work with me, and then she just saw how I got up out of my chair, by myself, because she was figuring she had to help me. So she saw how I got up by myself, and I took a few steps. I think I had to get something on the other side of the room. So I took a few steps of my own. And then she said, okay, let's go for a walk. And I was like, oh, should I grab the walker? And she was like, oh no, not by what I just, she's like, not by what I just saw. She's like, I'll be right next to you. So you don't feel so you're not nervous. But she's like, you can do it. And I know you can do it. And I think that to me is like where I saw the benefits of where, this, a bit of the conditioning and the working out, has come in. And it sort of continued on in this journey where after a couple weeks, you then go to a cardiac rehab, which is sort of like, going like PT, something like that. And so I could see, and also this brings back a little bit of my competitive nature too.
Competitive. I was going to say, I was the best guy at cardiac rehab.
A little bit of this competitive nature was, I'm like looking at the people around me and I'm like thinking, okay, how long have they been in here? Because not everyone had open heart surgery, not everyone had different circumstances. So I'm thinking, well, what's that person here for? What's that person here for? Because I was trying to see like what I was doing. So, I was trying to find something. But to go along with the story of where I think, the benefits of the KBC and the working out was you're scheduled, I think you're initially scheduled out for about 24 sessions. And I was going twice a week. So it's like 12 weeks that you're scheduled to do this. And then the person who was working me, after 12 sessions, he sat down with me and he was like, hey, I just wanted to let you know that this is not necessarily for all people, but after 12 sessions, we can start to evaluate people to see if they're ready to be dismissed. And, the way he described it was, one is you're boring because you're on the heart monitor and nothing is going, like your heart is doing exactly what you should be doing, because I'm hearing the bells and whistles and I'm like looking around going, please don't be me. Please don't be me. And they're always checking on someone else. So he was like, one is your heart is boring to watch because it's doing fine. And then the second thing that they evaluate would be, how are you doing with the exercises that we're giving you? And so he was like, you're just, every time we give you something, you're fine with it. And then we push you to another level the next time. So you're doing great. And then the biggest thing that he said is part of the evaluation is, does he have belief that you're going to work out yourself? Because he doesn't want to necessarily dismiss you early if he knows, hey, look, if I can work with this person two days a week and that's all they're going to do, then I want them. But if I have reasonable belief that they're going to do this so I told him, hey, on the days I'm not here, I take a walk every day. And then I told him about KBC and what I did and what I planned on doing. And he was like, okay, you know what? At that time, I hadn't done any upper body yet because I wasn't allowed to. So I was about to start. So he was like, you know what? Let's do 2 weeks of some upper body exercises. And if everything goes well, you're out. And that's what happened. So I kind of felt part of the KBC journey helped me graduate a little bit early from from cardiac rehab. And then
that's when I'm going to plug in your kids. So you had a daughter graduate from Pitt Law School, right?
Duquesne.
Oh, she went to Duquesne. Oh, but she went to Pitt undergrad, right?
Yeah, she was VCU undergrad and Duquesne
VCU
Law.
undergrad. Okay, she's in Pitt. She was at Duquesne. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay, yeah. So Shayna graduated from Duquesne. His daughter actually has worked out with us since probably middle school. I absolutely adore her. And then his son, Jordan, graduated from VCU as well, undergraduate. So Harry had to throw his name in the rink or the hat and say he graduated from cardiac rehab.
Yeah, exactly.
This all happened within oh my God.
Yeah, it was each of their, they graduated a week apart, and in between I graduated from cardiac rehab. So it was one big
and
celebration.
You also wanted to be there at their graduation,
oh, of course.
which was also huge. I mean, that's travel both times, and it's a lot of stress, extra stress. Not everybody is doing that kind of thing a couple months after triple bypass surgery, Harry.
I recognize that, and I'm grateful and I'm thankful. I do see, like I said, I was able to see, people at the rehab, and I can hear some of the stories. I heard some stories of others who shared afterwards, people who just, couldn't really do anything on their own. So I'm certainly very grateful and thankful, that I think all of the components of, in a sense, my competitive drive to get to those graduations and to be able to walk there, on top of then what KBC, provided for me, not only the community piece of helping us get to that point, but then be the working out and the fitness level of being able to then, do these do these exercises and do these, as you're saying, some of these basic everyday life functionalities, that, you don't realize, okay, I can do it. And so, it's very, very humbling, experience.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I certainly didn't expect you back so soon. I think it was last week, or you sent a text, or 2 weeks ago. You were like,
I think it's been about this might be the third week I've been back. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm taking it easy, and there's more modification, but I will say this about that though, is that I needed to get back. Do you know what I mean? I needed that atmosphere. I needed to be part of it. I knew I'm now going in the back corner doing a little bit even more modification, but I needed to be in the surrounding to feel like I was part of something again. I was doing stuff at home, like I was asked to do, walking and doing some basic exercise at home, but it was really important to me to get back. And even though, I know it will take a little bit of time to get completely comfortable, but it was just important to get back. And that's sort of where I was getting to.
You do such a good job, Harry, of modifying. He was in my strength class the other morning, 6 a.m., Wednesday morning. Today's
Monday.
Wednesday.
Yeah,
Monday.
Monday.
You were in my strength conditioning class.
Yeah.
So Monday morning, 6 a.m., he was in class and he had that back corner. So if it was like something where he didn't want to get down on the ground, he could use we have the plyo boxes. So he was using that, modifying some of the exercises. He's just really good. I mean, I'm sure it's your sports background too, and just have exercised for a while, been with us for so long, but you're really good at like, okay, I can't do triceps this way, but I can do them this way or whatever the exercise is. And I do want to share, Harry, that so after, once we knew Harry was going to be okay, it was a very scary time. It
Oh
was a
yeah,
very,
yeah.
very, very scary time. And his poor wife, I'm always worried about the wife. She had
Yes,
just
me too.
recovered from a lot of, she had a very scary fall, and she had broken she had they had a very tough 2025
Yes.
to say the
Yeah.
least. So she couldn't
Yeah.
drive. I mean, basically, right? She got cleared to drive and
Yeah. So basically, yeah. So basically, when she kind of had a little elbow fracture, it was basically, jokingly say, perfect timing, where for a little bit of while I was dressing her, and and then and then she had to turn around, and then it was like finally when she could finally dress herself, it was now she's got to dress me for a couple of weeks. No, it was very trying times, and I'll just put in a little thing with her. I mean, she's just been incredible. Just a little bit of a plug of KBC with her. She's where I'm the one that drifts a bit. She's consistent. She's there every day. Clock goes off, and it's her sanctuary. I know what it does for her physically, because you can, and everyone can see it. How
she
beautiful
looks
she, how beautiful
amazing.
she is. How
She's a,
physically,
she's a
but
pretty
yeah,
hot
yeah.
mama.
But even more is what it does mentally for her. And so just to have that outlet, to have that time, to have that where she's feeling she's taking care of herself. And I know that was equally as needed and important to get me through my challenge. To get me through it. She was using what all of her knowledge and all of her working out and continuing to work out, to then be able to really, be the rock of that family during that time, as she always is, but just meaning when I just couldn't do anything. Yeah, it was just, it was a challenging time, but yet, KBC has certainly had a big part of getting us through it. And it's still on the early side for me of my recovery. I got to get on that in body again soon and see if I'm recovering some of the strength that I lost, because you couldn't lift for about 9 weeks. So a little bit of muscle strength I got to get back. But we're getting there. We're getting there.
Well, this is Harry's last post. This is actually why I was like, I got to get Harry on the podcast. He says, I'm going to this is on our the DW group, the community group. He says, I'm going to post my in-body results, hoping I'll be more accountable. The numbers are good so far, but this is when I struggle. I let things slide from this time of year to early fall, hoping to keep the focus. Kelly asks us for our aha for the month on the spreadsheet. I have a new meaning of that aha. For me, it's now what, Harry?
The aha of AHA is my after heart attack. So I have my DW numbers where, I know where I started in January, but it just so happened that, we took our February one after the winter contest. So it was only just about 4 or 5 days after that it occurred. So I have my baseline of what it was after heart attack, and I'll just keep motivating myself that, I got to continue working and continue making some life changes and getting habits better, to avoid this again.
Yeah, but you must have dialed in your nutrition, because
Yeah.
you lost weight, you're
Hmm.
barely any skeletal muscle mass, and your body fat's gone down.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say that I did, yes, I did focus on obviously it was almost the only thing I can do,
Yeah.
other
Yeah,
than,
we had to
other
change
than,
your
other than
diet.
walking, it was the only thing I could do. So I really made sure I dialed that in. And I'll say my two biggest takeaways from that I'll share, that has really been helpful. One is with carbs. Like I've always I always had, I guess, a misbelief of carbs, like where I can't have carbs because carbs are my enemy, whether it's low carbs or no carbs. I talked with someone and carbs were fine, with a certain percent of your daily intake to be carbs. But just the big thing, the suggestion, which I really tried to take to heart, is switch to whole grains. You got to make it to whole grains because the whole grains is able to break down easier in your body, whereas the processed can and it might get changed and stored to fat. And then the other big thing was, now prior to this, I wasn't such a bad eater, to be quite honest with you. I wasn't that bad. But I think what I really also learned that was a biggie was the daily caloric intake. You just don't realize it. And so really I've been using the Fitness Pal, logging in to really get a better handle that, you think you're eating well,
Yeah.
but then if you eat too much, it's still going to not burn off and turn to fat no matter. So those have been my two big things is, and now obviously, hey, I'm not going to eat bad food. I'm not going to this and lower my sodium. Sure. But I think the two bigger things was making sure I was like switching to whole grains and really watching my daily overall calorie intake to make sure that it was, and if you want to lose some weight, then making sure it's a little bit less than what your body generally needs. You don't want to go into a crazy calorie deficit, but a little bit just to have a gradual loss. And so that's what I'm now working towards.
Well, you're doing a really good job, Harry. I'm
Yeah,
very,
thank
very
you.
proud of you. You're doing
Trying.
a very, very good job. So, one of the things that while Harry was recovering after his heart attack, the Dude Camp community, we decided that we were all we set a specific goal and we kind of dedicated it to Harry. And a lot of the guys were getting their physicals and not only getting their physicals, but taking it to the next level and doing a little bit more of a cardiac evaluation, paying whatever it is that $800, either sharing, the guys are all sharing who they're going to. And so, and with a couple of our guys, some health issues came out of it, and they've had to start making changes because of some information that they've gotten from their health reports. So I do feel like you helped our community once again, and just like motivating the guys, like, hey, Harry's just like us, right? He's young, he's athletic, there's no difference between Harry and us, right? And it just made it feel a little bit like that, everyone realized that you do have family history. Do you want to talk about that at all, Harry? That
I just happen to be in the category, where they talk about diet, exercise, this, that, and I wasn't really a risk factor that much in all of those other categories. I mean, I could always be better with my diet, but it's nothing crazy. But I do have a family history with my father. He had a similar thing around the same age. His father, my grandmother, and like his brothers. And so, unfortunately, that the family history is the hardest one to combat on your own. So that's where, in addition to trying to take care of yourself, which is a must, the diet and exercise, which is a must, especially if you have the family history, you probably need a little bit of an extra boost from, in terms of maybe medications or something. So yeah, I would just say for sure, get your checkups, get your annual visits. One thing I've also learned is be aggressive with your questioning. I think it might have been a little bit of lapse in some years, so it's like it's okay to ask and force some answers. And if you don't like something, you try somewhere else. I've definitely learned where I'm going to definitely listen to my body, not take time, not take time to go get checked out, and to be aggressive with your daily upkeep and annual checkups and physicals and so on.
Yeah, I think that's such good advice, to be aggressive. And Harry, as far as I think that one thing that would be helpful if we shared is the night that you knew something was wrong, Monday night or whatever it was. What was your sign?
This is where, again, lesson learned a little bit. I know my body. I should have maybe did further, but it was a Sunday night. It was after I had eaten dinner. After I had dinner, I felt it felt like a little bit like having like heartburn. And so I did take like an over the counter thing, and it did actually provide some relief. So I went to bed, I felt
Yeah.
okay, maybe it was just heartburn, It kind of came back again in the morning, and it was after I ate breakfast, so it came back again. I took a little bit over the counter, but I guess not that I'm one that always gets heartburn, nothing like that, but it has happened on occasion. I just knew it was not the same. Like it was different. It was definitely different because it was a little bit more intense. It did have a little bit more of a pain in the center of my chest. Again, the over the counter stuff did provide some relief, so it got a little confusing. But I knew enough to know that it's not the same. It's not what I normally felt because again, it was a bit more of that. A little bit more of that intense pain that was in the center of the chest. People would have said like, "Oh, is it like an elephant sitting on?" Like, I get all the questions, which is great. Like, I want people to ask me questions. I didn't necessarily feel like a huge, pain, but it was a bit of discomfort and pain in the center of the chest, and it just didn't really go away, and so that's where I knew something's not right. Now that wasn't the heart attack at that point. That was more of like angina, whatever that they call it, perhaps, where it's like a precursor where you could feel something. At least I knew enough that wait, this is not right. So I did go to the doctor after just doing an EKG and whatever. They just suggested, hey, we think you should just go over to the ER just to get checked out. And so, at least I got myself there. And even though the heart attack did occur, it was just lucky that I was in the ER at the moment. So they were able to quickly stabilize me. And so I just wasn't in it for that long of a time. And that's where the real fortunate part was. And I think, in retrospect, it's like, hey, look, you don't feel right. You feel something, go get checked. It's okay. It's not
But
like
it's easy to say. I think that that's good to say.
in the
Like
run, it's
you
easy.
could have said, like, "Oh, I'm taking, the antacid is giving me some relief. It's probably just heartburn, right?" But you didn't say that. You said, "Okay." I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. After a while, I was like, this is not it. I got to get checked. I got to
yeah,
get checked out.
your gut is always right. Your gut is always right. So don't override your gut
Yeah.
with,
Yeah.
could be this or could be that. That's really good advice. But before then, you weren't tired, or in retrospect, were you?
No, look, I mean, Debbie will always say, hey, look, you're tired. You're on the couch, but she's also, she's also falling asleep early too. But I will say now I will say I do feel a bit more, energy now. Like people will say, hey, after you get over sort of the surgery part, which is, there's still some feelings that I still have to get over, with it, in terms of the scars and all that. But just in general though, I think there is a bit like obviously obviously there's more oxygen flow that's going through me, whereas it was 100% blocked and 80% blocked on two others. So I do feel more, like I can come home, I can go then to class, and then I can do an errand, and I'm also not like just falling apart on the couch. Like, so I do feel like, there is a bit more energy, now, just, hopefully continuing to get through, some of this short-term stuff, to get through, and then
It's
it will all come
incredible, Harry,
together.
that we're 4 months out and you're saying you have more energy than you thought you had before after triple bypass surgery. It's really pretty incredible. And I'm really grateful that you were able to come on. I didn't want to just talk about your heart attack. It wasn't the
No,
aha. It
no,
wasn't
it's
going to be
okay.
all about the aha, because you've always been such an incredible member of this community, and you're always striving to get
Mm.
better and showing up and being honest, and the guys love you and everybody loves you. And another thing I love about Harry is he'll go to a bar class, he doesn't care. Like he's like, I'll go, if it works for my schedule and it's a class I like, I'll go. And he sees the benefits in all different types of training, which any true athlete does. So I really value that about you, Harry. If you could say one more thing to our audience, Harry will only get the chance to say one more thing. What's it going to be, Harry?
Oh boy, you put me on a spot of like
Doesn't
such a
have to be
big thing I have to
big.
say. I would, no, no, I know. Again, well, first and foremost, again, if anyone in that KBC community is listening, just again, a huge thank you. And, the only thing I just would say, people, again, listen to your body, always do what you can do. Don't sort of give up on it. It may not be what you thought you were able to do or could have done a year ago, but just continue, just continue at
He's
it.
talking about exercise. So if you feel like
Exercise,
you
yeah.
feel like he's got some major back issues, which would tell a lot of people stop exercising, but he didn't. He found a way to do it.
Yeah. They said, hey, don't do high impact. Okay, so I'll make it low impact. You figure it out. And then, and then the last thing I just would say, people that if they're going to get on this journey now who maybe are struggling a little bit, it's like, don't overdo don't overdo it with just one thing. Just build yourself with increment. Just remember, it's like, it's not only the cardio, it's the strength, it's the flexibility. Because now I'm seeing, and the diet, like it's those four aspects. So don't just go all in on one and go overboard, and then you burn out. Try to figure out, and it's good advice, but I'll be honest, I'm still struggling with it. So I have to do this on a daily basis where it's like, okay, look, I got to stretch for a few minutes. I got to, be able to do, it's easy to just kind of get all locked in with one thing, and then you let the others go, and then you burn out, and then you drift away. Try to build yourself up, but do something. get started, as kind of a saying, hey, just start with, just start. And if you drift, then just restart. It's okay. It's okay. And, that's what, and get your checkups.
The best thing about our community is none of us are perfect. We all are fighting something. We've all got something that we're working around. Yeah. And that's beautiful. And that's wonderful. And then we support each other and love each other even more for it. I've said this for years, even when we were in our 30s, I don't like perfect people. Those aren't my favorite. I like people that are always just trying to get better wherever they're at and just showing up and doing their best. That's always good enough. So, Harry, it was so fun to talk to you. I got to go teach. I'm going to be late. It was so fun to talk to you. And I'm so grateful. And I hope that anybody listening to this takes some of Harry's advice, because it's solid advice from the heart. He's a real dude. He's just being completely honest with you guys. Like, he struggles and he had to find his way back to fitness. Maybe that's you. So thank you, Harry.
No problem. Thank you, Kelly, for the opportunity.
Have a great night.
Yeah,
I'll see you soon. Maybe tomorrow.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Start Before You're Ready. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share with a friend who might need a little motivation. Ready to start your own journey? Check out our workouts and nutrition coaching programs at kellysbootcamp.net. You can choose from in-person sessions or virtual programs. Set up a complimentary coaching session to get started. Follow along with me and the show on social media at Kellys_Bootcamp. Until next time, this is Kelly Young reminding you that the best time to start is always now.